study with Tanzania Institute of Education.
Hello student, welcome in this learning session of biology, Form 4, and our topic today is genetics, and the subtopic is concept of genetic material. Concept of genetic material. In this topic, my dear student, first of all, let me share with you the specific objectives of our lesson. The specific objective of our lesson. So, my dear student, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to do the following. Number one, objectives. A. At the end of this learning session, you should be able to explain concept of genetic material. To explain concept of genetic material. B, my dear student, you should be able to explain the structure, the structure and composition of genetic material, genetic materials. And lastly, C, my dear student, these are the specific objectives that you are supposed to be able to do at the end of this learning session. C, you should be able to differentiate DNA from RNA. You should be able to differentiate DNA from RNA. And our vocabs today, vocabularies, these are the new words to you. And I should give you new words or vocabularies so as to be able to use them in your normal studies. Our vocabulary today is 1. Chromosomes. This is the first vocabulary. Number 2, my dear student, please look it well. Genes. This is the second vocabulary. Number 3, nucleic acid. Nucleic acids. Remember, you should be able to write in correct spelling, so please look very carefully the spelling of nucleic acids. Another vocabulary that we are going to use is nucleotides. And RNA. And lastly, our vocabulary or words we are going to use is DNA. Well, my dear student, in the previous lesson of biology, we explained the concept of genetics and the causes. What were the causes of genetics? What were the causes of heredity and variation? And we saw that there are special structures inside the nucleus that were called chromosomes. Chromosomes and genes. So in the previous lesson, we explained a little about chromosomes and genes. So today's lesson, my dear student, we want to go further. We want to go further. What make up these genes? What make up these genes? What constitutes the genes? What gene is made up of? So my dear student, genes, they are made up of, genes are made up of a large organic compound. Genes are made up of large organic compounds, which are called nucleic acids. Nucleic acids. Genes, they are made up of large organic compound called nucleic acids. And these organic compounds, they are called nucleic acid. You know why? It's because they are compounds which are found in the nucleus of the cell. These are compounds which are found in the nucleus of the cell. So they are called nucleic acids. These nucleic acids, my dear students, as we say, they are very large organic compound. In organic chemistry, we call them polymers. We call them polymers. We call them polymers. So these nucleic acids, which are very large polymers, they are made up of smaller building blocks. Smaller building blocks. Because they are very large, so they are made up of smaller building blocks. They are made up of small building blocks of compounds called what? Nucleotide. Called nucleotides. Called nucleotide. My dear student, make sure you know the spelling of these terms because it's very important to you. Nucleotides. So to make this lesson very easy for you to understand, my dear student, your teacher have prepared a very interesting model of nucleic acids that we are going later on to see the nucleotides. So here, my dear student, I hope you will be easily understand the nucleic acid. So this is a long chain, my dear students. It represents a large organic compound called nucleic acids. But if you observe carefully, you will see that this nucleic acid is very large. It is made up of smaller compounds. Smaller things. So if we remove this one, this smaller compound, my dear student, it's made up of three things. I think you see it. There is this one, which represents sugar molecule, and there is S there, which represents sugar molecule. There is another one, my dear student. This represents phosphoric acid. And normally it is written P, just capital P. And this one that has been attached with the sugar, this is, in this model, this is a bottle top. But here it represents the nitrogen base, or another word we can say organic base. So together, these three things, that is the smaller building block that I told you earlier. And this smaller building block that constitutes of how many things? Three things: sugar, phosphoric acid, and organic base. These three things together, they form a smaller building block called nucleotide. So the nucleotide, my dear student, it consists of three things. Nucleotide, it consists of three things, namely one, my dear student, sugar molecule. Sugar molecule. And this sugar molecule, my dear student, it's not just any other sugar. It is a sugar of 5 carbon atoms. 5 carbon atoms. Of course, you know that there are sugars of 6 carbon atoms, such as glucose, and also there are sugars of 12 carbon atoms, such as sucrose. But here, in this lesson, we are not talking of sugars of sucrose or glucose. We are talking about sugars of 5 carbon compounds. And these sugars, they are called pentose sugar. Pentose sugar. Pentose sugar, or sometimes they are called ribose sugar. Ribose sugar. It is called pentose from the word penta, which means 5. Also, the nucleotide, as we saw in this structure, it consists of phosphoric acid. So, phosphoric acid. And it's just represented as letter P, capital letter P. And also, as we said earlier, there is a nitrogen base or organic base. Organic base, which we can represent as N. So, my dear student, after seeing that nucleic acid is a large compound, but it consists of smaller building units called nucleotides. And then also we see that nucleotide, it consists of 3 parts. Now we can ask ourselves, why these parts which represent organic bases, they are of different colors? Of course, you see there is a light blue, a dark blue, orange, and red. Here in this model, each color, it represents a kind of organic base. because the organic base, they are of different forms, they are of different kinds. So let me give you the types or forms of organic bases which occur in the nucleic acids. So there are number one, my dear student. The first is adenine, and it is represented by capital letter A. Capital letter A. We call it as adenine. Number two is thiamine. We represent capital letter T. Thiamine, capital letter T. And the third, my dear student, the third type of organic base is cytosine. Cytosine. Here, cytosine, represented by letter C. Cytosine. Another one is cytosine uracil. Yes, uracil, represented by letter U. And the last one is guanine. Guanine, represented by letter G. So my dear student, these bottle tops of different colors in this nucleic acid, they are different in colors to represent different types of organic bases. Different types of organic bases. We have seen that the nucleotide, it consists of sugar molecule of 5 carbon atoms called pentose sugar. The second thing which makes the nucleotide is phosphoric acid. And the last one is nitrogen base or organic base. Now let's talk about the nitrogen bases or organic bases. It's very, very important, my dear student, to understand these bases. Why? Because it is these bases of adenine, thiamine, uracil, cytosine, and guanine that they are arranged in the genetic materials so as to determine the cellular activities which will be used to produce a particular body protein. And this particular body protein finally will be expressed as our external or outward appearance. For instance, my dear students, if the skin color of somebody is dark, maybe like me, then it's due to the certain or particular arrangement of these organic bases. If somebody, maybe hair texture of somebody is African hairs, or Asian hairs, or European hairs, it is due to the arrangement. There is a certain specific arrangement of these nitrogen bases or organic bases. So where they are arranged in the linear manner, they determine a particular character of individual. They determine a particular character of individual. And a particular arrangement, it is what's so-called genes. It's a particular arrangement. They provide a code. They provide a certain genetic code that will give you that particular characters that you have in your body. Well, now, basing on the structure and arrangement of nucleotides in the nucleic acids, there are two types of nucleic acid. Types of nucleic acids. There are two types, my dear student, of nucleic acid. There is one called what? Called deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or normally written in short as DNA. And the second is ribonucleic acid, or written as RNA. But where are these coming from? These types, they are derived from the structure and composition of the nucleic acid. So here, my dear student, we see a certain chart. This chart, my dear student, is going to show you the structure and composition of DNA and RNA. By looking very closer and very carefully, then I hope you will be able to differentiate DNA and RNA. So let me attach this in there. Let me attach this, and then we shall observe together this one. Good, my dear student. So as I told you earlier, and as I showed you, the nucleic acid is a long compound. So you see, this is DNA, and it is a very long. And this is an RNA also, it is a long organic compound. So now let's make differences between DNA and RNA. If you look here, you will find that the DNA, this diagram, it represents DNA. It is made up of two strands, two double strands. It is made up of double strands of nucleotides. These are double strands of nucleotide, one strand and another strand. So DNA, it is made up of double strand, while RNA is only single strand. It's only single strand. Another difference, my dear student, between DNA and RNA, it is the constituents, composition. As I told you earlier, there are organic bases. So in DNA, look very carefully, my dear student, there is adenine, cytosine, thymine, guanine, and they pair together. They are pairing by using a hydrogen bond. There is a special bond here, which is called the hydrogen bond. So there is ATCG. But in RNA, the position of T here, it has been replaced by uracil. Instead of having thymine here, there is uracil. So the nitrogen or organic base of RNA are adenine, uracil, guanine, and cytosine. While organic base of DNA are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. No uracil in DNA. Another difference, my dear student, is the position or location. Where can we find DNA in the cell, and where can we find RNA in the cell? Well, my dear student, DNA, if you draw the cell, let's say this is a cell, my dear student. This is a cell, and this is the nucleus of a cell. DNA always found only in the nucleus of the cell, while RNA can be found in the nucleus, and also RNA can be found in the cytoplasm of the cell. So, mind you, my dear student, there are so many differences between DNA and RNA. Now, to finalize our lesson, my dear student, let me give you a very small exercise that you will go and get help from your fellows and your parents and others. Yes. So, my dear student, here there is a small exercise for you. Small exercise for you. Number one. Name 2 genetic materials. Name 2 genetic materials. And number 2, my dear student, differentiate DNA from RNA. Differentiate DNA from RNA. Now, we have come to the end of our lesson. It's me, your teacher, Swedi H. Swed. I hope, my dear student, I hope you have enjoyed the lesson and you have understood about the topic. Thank you for your attentive listening and take care of Corona. Thank you.